Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we talk about all things fandom and we talk about them in a positive way. If it's something that appeals to you, you've come to the right place and we're so glad to have you. Now, that being said, when you were a little kid, did you ever dream of going to space? Who didn't? Well, our next review for our next movie that we're reviewing has just that as a premise. These three kids actually do go into space. This wonderful 1985 movie marks the screen debut of Ethan Hawke, River Phoenix, and Danny Nucci. Danny Nucci actually plays one of the mean kids at their school. However, it is noted because he would go on to star in NCSI, and a whole bunch of other things like that. While Ethan Hawke would go on to play in a lot of movies. Coincidentally enough, Ethan Hawke and Danny Nucci would both later appear in the movie Alive, which is very cool. Because the movie Alive was actually based on a true story and was also a critically acclaimed movie. River Phoenix, of course, would go on to do a lot of really critically acclaimed films before his death of a drug overdose outside of the former Johnny Depp nightclub, the Viper Room. But let's jump into it. So, the other kid in this movie is named Jason Presson. And Jason Presson's last screen role was in 1997. It was a made-for-TV movie. But he had a pretty decent career in his own right. I don't know why he would give up acting or if he did. But the three of them are the main stars: Ethan Hawke, River Phoenix, and Jason Presson. The story begins with Ben Crandall, played by Ethan Hawke. And Ben Crandall started to have these weird dreams that all of a sudden something's calling to him. He doesn't really understand, so he recruits his uber nerd friend, Wolfgang Mueller, played by River Phoenix. Along the way, they're getting bullied, and, well, Ethan Hawke's character of Ben Crandall is getting bullied, and along comes Darren Woods, played by Jason Presson, who actually ends up helping him. This makes a quick friendship for the two, and the three of them begin to work on this project. After doing stuff on his Apple computer, Wolfgang determines that, in fact, the dream has meant something. It makes this sphere when he types in the code, and the sphere nearly destroys the basement. Well, that's okay, because all that would happen to Wolfgang if his parents found out is they'd put him in a test tube, because Wolfgang's family is extremely smart, and his mother is played by Dana Ivey, and his father is played by James Cromwell. Now, James Cromwell in this movie, this has to be like a year or two after Revenge of the Nerds at the most, and maybe even about the same year. But in any case, he don't look much older than he does in Revenge of the Nerds, and he would later go on to be in Babe, the movie about the pig that was so wonderful, and all that. So the movie has a great cast, and what happens in it is that these kids, once they find out this sphere can engulf them, they decide to build a ship. So they go to the junkyard, and when they go to the junkyard, they find the parts they need to build a ship, and they take off into space to explore the unknown, to find out what is calling them. Now, the movie's really great, and if you're a kid, you're gonna love it. But if you're a big kid, if you're an adult and you haven't seen this movie, it's a trip down nostalgia. It's really great. It makes you feel like a kid again. The magic that's in this movie is just unbelievable. This movie should have been a much bigger movie than it ever was. Why wasn't it? Well, part of that could be due to the fact that production was actually sped up. They contacted director Joe Dante and wanted him to bring the film to a finish quicker. They had a release date in mind, and his release date that he had in mind when he wasn't done yet wasn't the same. So he had to turn in an unfinished product. So this movie is not actually a finished product. However, if you can watch this movie and you don't feel that it was a finished product in any way, shape, or form, let me know in the comment box below, because I've never felt that way about this movie. What's also interesting to note is that the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind featured this little toy monkey. If you look really closely in Wolfgang's lab, in his basement, you can actually see this monkey from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's also notable that that several times you see clips from War of the Worlds. And why not? Because the movie actually does its best to pay homage to several sci-fi things. Robert Picardo plays two roles in this movie. I can only tell you about one. On the drive, when they're flying past the drive-in, they see this movie playing on screen. It has this hero named Starkiller. Starkiller is a reference to Star Wars, because Starkiller, of course, was the original name for Skywalker in George Lucas's original vision of Star Wars. It's also notable that Starkiller would later on become Darth Vader's apprentice in the now uncanon Force Unleashed, which is a shame because that is a wonderful game. Now, later go on to be used yet again in the sequels as Starkiller Base. And who says Disney doesn't reference the extended universe? Now, Starkiller's appearance and overall demeanor was modeled on Elvis Presley. I don't personally see it, but that's what they say. There are numerous references to Looney Tunes cartoons. The characters oftentimes will quote them or whatever, and it's kind of funny. The sphere actually crashing through everything is very reminiscent of a Looney Tunes cartoon. But it's never done in a way that's demeaning to you, the audience, or makes you feel like you're watching something that's meant for a 5-year-old. Now, this is also the first film that the American Motion Pictures visual effects company, Industrial Lights and Magic, co-produced with a major studio. So that's really cool. That's really actually pretty cool. Cherry Curry of The Runaways was actually considered for a role in this movie. But unfortunately, she was pretty high on drugs at the time and apparently didn't even come in for the meeting. It's really funny to note that when you're watching this movie, it feels like a children's movie in a lot of ways, but it's fun for the whole family. There are some adult themes in the movie. Like they do use the sphere to go and spy through the window of the girl that that Ethan Hawke's character Ben has a crush on, but, you know, then again, it was the 80s, and they tended to do that sometimes in 80s movies a little bit more so than I feel they do today. Now the movie actually does have some cool special effects too. I can't go into a lot of the special effects due to spoilers. However, I'm going to tell you again, if you haven't seen this movie, you really need to check it out. Because the things that it does for the time that it does it isn't as bad as you would think. However, it is notable that the computer that Wolfgang uses, he claims to be an Apple computer. It is not an Apple computer. An Apple computer could not do the things that Wolfgang claims it can do. And furthermore, it was not actually an Apple computer they used, but a different type of computer altogether with some special effects and other things to liven it up. And, you know, it is very worth noting. Now, you know, when you think about this and you think about the movie and everything, keep in mind that this was the 80s. So it doesn't have all the CGI and wonderful stuff that today's big blockbusters would have. Also consider the fact that I said earlier, this movie got released before it was technically even finished. He was forced to give them what footage he actually had, and that led to probably a very different movie than we actually got being given to them. I don't imagine... I mean, he didn't shoot anything else for it. I mean, here's the thing. He didn't shoot anything else for the movie. It's literally what he had that he was forced to give them. So, when you look at it, if you could see where this movie wasn't finished, then okay, but I really, like I said, I can't tell. And I think it's one of the most underrated movies of 1985. 1985 brought us a lot of wonderful movies, and that's the problem. It kind of got, since it didn't get the mainstream overall advertising, and since it was rushed to get out, it really didn't get the attention it deserved at the time. In fact, I don't remember seeing this movie even play in theaters anywhere where I was. I don't think it played in a lot of theaters. I could be wrong. What it did play on is a lot of DVDs. Well, a lot of VHS at the time. VHS, you know, in video stores saw a resurgence in a bunch of movies like this that didn't get these big screen debuts. They oftentimes would be able to hit VHS and get rented by people at Blockbuster or whatever and become these mega movies, these movies with cult followings. And that's why we bring this movie to your attention. While it did not do a lot in the mainstream media when it came out, while it did not get high praise, it has since become a cult classic. And you add on to that the fact that Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix both debuted in this movie. And you have something that, you know, is worth a watch for anybody who's a fan of either of those two. And also for anybody who's a fan of sci-fi and fantasy films. It's also kind of one of those movies that has a feel-good vibe about it. You don't walk out of the movie being afraid. You don't walk out of the movie being mad. You don't walk out of the movie with any sort of preconceived notions of what the movie intended itself to be. What it presents itself to be, it actually is. These three kids go into space to find something that is calling to them. What it is completely outrageous and worth your time. Now that being said, I wanted to ask you all, if you have ever seen this movie, and if not, Is this a movie that interests you? Are you wanting to see this movie? Because if you are, let me know in the comments. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments. I would like to hear your opinion on this movie. I'd like to hear what you think, what you thought, and overall, I would like to hear your personal opinion. So, that being said, you know what to do. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, leave a comment, and everybody, what can I say? Fandom is family.